Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Step closer, guys. Five Nights at Freddy's Fazbear Frights #4. First story is about Foxy, and it's really good. I really enjoyed the first story. So yeah, quick review. Gonna go straight into it. As always, I've got a bunch of notes. This is a non-spoiler review at the start, even though I'd say 99% of people watch the video to see the whole summary. But just in case, because I like to play it safe, I enjoyed it. I'd probably give it about an 8 out of 10. The ending, I thought, could have been a bit more explained, really. This one's a very mysterious story. It's very paranormal. It's more focused on, you know, spookiness, paranormal, really mysterious, compared to it being like animatronic go boo, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's more focused on like a curse, basically, and that's all I'm gonna say. So the main character gets a curse and bad things start happening to him. Kind of reminded me of like a 1:35 a.m. where the character in 1:35 a.m. kept getting, you know, haunted by the doll, but the doll wasn't there. It's kind of similar with this one, where the main character gets haunted by Foxy and stuff, but Foxy's never really there. So yeah, let me talk about it and explain what's going on. It's a weird one, guys. Again, like I said, it's very paranormal, very weird. Very sad ending, though. Damn. You know, we've had some sad endings in the past about characters, you know, what happened to the characters. This one, guys, is... oh, it's not very nice. So I'm going to give a warning, man. This warning... this what happens to the main character screwed me up a little bit reading it. It's very sad. So yeah, get ready. Get ready for this one, guys. It's very, very dark. Okay, guys, the story starts off with a scene with Foxy. So, you know, it is about Foxy, and it starts off with Foxy. So Pete is the main character, and it starts off with Pete. I'll read it to you. Foxy's yellow eyes glowed in the darkness of the room. His jaw hung open, flashing sharp teeth. Foxy lifted his hook and slashed his sharp tip in front of Pete's face, the hook whizzing by his nose. Pete rolled off the bed, his body shaking. His stomach pitched as he lay helpless on the floor, and Foxy pivoted, looming over him. The shifting of gears filled the room as Foxy sprung up with his hook. "You can be a pirate, but first you'll have to lose an eye and an arm." "No!" Foxy breathed when Foxy slammed his hook down into Pete's eye. An audible pop sounded. Ugh. Blood poured from his eye socket as Pete screamed. So yeah. Basically, Pete's eye gets popped by Foxy's hook. And then it quickly goes, you know, I forgot what they're called. Time sequence or whatever. You know, blah, 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 blah. And then it goes back to the normal story. Remember that, guys, because that scene's very iconic in this story. I like it. Pete and Chuck are the main characters, okay? Pete is the older brother. Chuck is the younger brother. And Pete's basically the babysitter. Because Pete's dad, the family's dad, left them a few months ago, and now Pete is basically the father figure, so he has to look after Chuck, and he's only 16. Pete's only 16, so obviously you can see where this is going. Pete's not happy, you know, he's 16 years old. It's not his fault the dad has left, so he's got to look after the younger brother all the time. You know, life's not fair. You can see what's going on here. So Pete doesn't like Chuck. Pete blames Chuck for everything. And yeah, so they go to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza all the time, okay? And And Pete's looking after Chuck there. Chuck goes there with his friends and Pete has to babysit him on his own. So you can see, like, Pete's not happy with this. Oh, why do I have to look after Chuck at this stupid pizzeria? You know, Chuck always gets what he wants. In the pizzeria, guys, Pete listens to some workers, and Foxy is under maintenance, okay? Remember that. So Foxy is not performing at the moment. It's just the main animatronics. Foxy in Pirates Cove is under maintenance in the maintenance room, okay? And Chuck hates Foxy. Chuck does not like Foxy. Really scared. So you can see where this is going. Pete has become very miserable after the father left, okay? Very emotional, very angry, you know, which is understandable, okay? Trauma has happened to him. He's not going to be happy, is he? And Maria is at the pizzeria as well, a girl, and Pete can't hang out with Maria because of Chuck, looking after Chuck all the time. He can't go and see his friends because he's looking after Chuck. Pete decides to take Chuck into the maintenance room to scare him. Okay, a prank, you know. Oh, I hate Chuck so much, let's scare him. I've heard Foxy's in the maintenance room. I'm going to take Chuck into the maintenance room while nobody's looking, and I'm going to scare him. So, that's what they do. They go into the maintenance room, and Pete's a bully, and he's really forceful. So Pete grabs Chuck's arm and forces him into the maintenance room. So, you know, Pete's being a bit nasty here, guys. I know he's his brother. It's his brother, but, you know, forcing him, like grabbing his arm and pulling him into the maintenance room is not very nice. So I'm going to read this to you now when they go into the maintenance room. And I want you guys, while listening to me, to think, hold on, say that again? That detail, what you've just mentioned, is very weird. I'll look at the camera when I mention it, okay? So you get the hint. The heavy door slammed behind them, engulfing them in darkness. Pete, let me go! Quiet. Someone might hear, and I don't want to listen to you whining like a little baby. Do you know how annoying that is? Pete wouldn't let loose of the vice grip he had on his brother. No, it was time to teach Chuck a lesson. It was time for Pete to do what he wanted, and right now, that meant giving his brother a good scare. Little Chuck the chump might even pee his pants. Pete chuckled at the idea. With one hand still, firmly on his brother's arm, he fished his phone out of his pocket and turned on the light to guide them slowly through the darkness. The area was strangely quiet, as if it wasn't connected to the boatload of people just down a hallway. The smell here was stagnant and musty. The air seemed lifeless, as if no one had set foot in the place recently, which was weird when the rest of the building was full of activity. Pete's foot knocked a bottle across the floor. It hit something and shattered. Pete and Chuck froze, wondering if someone would hear, but no one seemed to be around. Pete scanned the floor with the light, revealing scuffed black and white checkered tiles. Dusty tables and a few broken chairs were scattered about the large room. There were cardboard boxes on the tables, half empty with party hats and plates scattered around them. His light flashed on a big, black spider sitting on the edge of one box. Look at that sucker! It's huge! Pete said. The spider jumped away, and the boys leaped back. I hate spiders. Let's get out of here, Chuck whined again. Not yet. There's so much to explore. Think of it like one of those adventure games you like to play. We have to find the secret treasure, Pete said, laughing under his breath, more like he had to scare the crap out of his brother a little more. He flashed the light back down onto the floor. He stopped on what looked like dark melted candles and strange black markings. What is that? Are those symbols? Chuck wanted to know. Who cares? Pete continued to wave the light around. Then he saw the small stage with the closed purple curtain, and a grin split his mouth. Pinned to the curtain, there was a crooked sign with the words, "Out of service." Score. Hopefully it still works. Pete, we shouldn't be here. We could get in trouble. Like big trouble. Like trespassing, you know. That's against the law. So what happens now, guys, is that Pete and Chuck go to the stage, you know, Pirate Cove stage. And Pete throws Chuck onto the stage and then tries to activate Foxy. Okay, so next to the Pirate Cove stage, there's a maintenance panel and to turn on the animatronic. Okay, we don't see that in the games, but yeah. So he tries to activate Foxy, Pete does, while Chuck is on the stage. Tries to activate it again and again, pressing it, and then a low hum happens, and gears, you know, gears moving around, click clank, and then nothing happens. Presses it again, and then the curtain starts to open. And as soon as that happens, Chuck runs away. Okay, so Chuck runs away, gets off the stage, and legs it. He absolutely retreats. Fox is activated, but Chuck has run away. I looked at the camera very suspiciously when I talked about the candles and black markings on the floor. Why would that be in a maintenance room? Okay, please think about that, because that's such a small detail that's never mentioned again, but I really do feel like it plays a part greatly in this story. Choppy music sounded through the air as the curtains opened fully. Pete stood frozen in front of a fractured Foxy animatronic that was glaring down at him. The yellow eyes glowed under the red brows, and an eye patch flipped up over his right eye. A jaw with sharp, pointy teeth hung loosely as the big fox began to sing a disjointed song about becoming a pirate. One arm had a hook for a hand, and the other hand was stripped of fur, showing its robotic skeleton. Strange sounds of whirling gears screeched and seemed to echo in the quiet of the room. The robot's chest appeared to be ripped open. His deteriorated body looked to be half eaten away by who knew what. A shiver skittered down Pete's spine. He swallowed his gum. He couldn't move his gaze away from Foxy's yellow eyes as he sang. Didn't know why. Just a dumb old robot. "You can be a pirate, but first you'll have to lose an eye and an arm. Yarg! First you'll have to lose an eye and an arm. Yarg! First you'll have to lose an eye and an arm. Yarg! First you'll have to lose an eye and an arm. Yarg!" The old animatronic was stuck on the same lyric. "First you'll have to lose an eye and an arm. Yarg!" Pete blinked as a strange feeling came over him, like an invisible cold. Heavy blanket was covering every inch of his body, then sinking through his skin and into his bones. "First you'll have to lose an eye and an arm. Yarg!" The room grew still with a sudden silence, yet Pete remained standing there in the dark, unmoving. He blinked and looked around, trying to remember where he was. He was in the dark, alone. His pulse scrambled as he stepped back. Then he saw his shirt was caught on a nail, and it all came back to him. He rubbed his eyes, yanked his shirt from the nail, and stormed away from the stage to find his brother. So yeah, guys, remember the song, "First you'll have to lose an eye and an arm." Remember that? Remember the start of the story when Foxy came into his bedroom? Tried to get his eye? That's it, guys. And remember the candles and the black markings in the room. There's a subplot, guys, in the story about the mom. So while the kids and the mum are at dinner, she talks about organ donations. So yeah, she said to the kids, really weird, like, hey kids, I've signed you all up for the organ donor program, so where if you die, you've got to donate your organs because it can really help somebody. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that an amazing idea? And yeah, so they're all like, oh, that's a bit weird, you know. And as soon as the mom starts talking about eyeballs, Pete imagines Foxy coming over to him and he feels lightheaded, okay? So anytime he thinks about like organs or any connections with the song, he feels sick and lightheaded. So yeah, remember this organ donation, guys, because it's important later on. Also, guys, I'll be an organ donor as well in real life. So if I ever die, you know, my organs will be donated if they can be used. I think it's a great idea, and it can save somebody's life. So yeah. The next morning, guys, Pete's sick. He throws up in the toilet. So something's not right with Pete, as you can see. Pete's very pale, looks very unwell. Okay, and the reason why he's sick in the morning is because he had a dream. He has a dream in the night, lots of blood. So he just dreams about blood being all over him, which isn't a nice dream, to be honest. And at school, he can't keep still. He's very fidgety, he's worried, he's anxious, you know, he doesn't feel very well, but he goes to school anyway. And this is the first scene where you know something's wrong. And this is when you'll be like, oh God, something's going to happen to Pete. Science class, okay? Partners up with a random dude, and they're dissecting a frog. Science class. So the partner is very weird, and he pokes the frog's eye and cuts off the frog's arm. And Pete's really weirded out by it, so he panics and he feels lightheaded and sick. And Pete slips and falls over onto his science partner, and he's on the floor and he looks up. And it's like in slow motion, the scalpel, the knife, the dissection knife, is in the air. And he looks up and the scalpel is falling down and it's about to hit Pete's eye. How weird's that? What a weird coincidence that the scalpel is going directly into Pete's eye. Luckily, he swaps it out the way just in time. How weird's that? How strange. It's almost like Pete's been cursed or something. And I just want to say now, it's set in modern times again. So he gets a text from his mom. So modern times, he's got a mobile phone, asking Pete to go to the butcher's. He goes to the butcher's and nobody's there. What a weird coincidence. He walks into the butcher's to collect some meat for his mom. Empty. Looks around. Hello? I'm here to collect some meat for my mom. Anybody here? And he goes in front of the desk to check if it's there, because sometimes at the butcher's they've already got it prepared. It wasn't prepared, so he goes around and he looks at this table, and there's meat cleavers on the wall, okay, racked up on the wall. And yeah, what happens, guys, is the meat cleaver, while his hand's on the desk, falls onto the desk and almost takes his arm out. And the butcher comes in and goes, what the hell are you doing here? You shouldn't be back here, it's dangerous. And Pete says to the butcher, what the heck? One of your meat cleavers just fell off the rack and it nearly cut my hand off. And the butcher's like, that's never happened before. That's never happened. What a weird coincidence. You know, they started to remind... If any of you guys have watched Final Destination, the movies, where basically everywhere the characters go, they have a chance of dying. Because, you know, it's a curse. It's reminded me of that. So Pete, everywhere Pete goes, there's always a chance of him losing his eye or losing his arm. Pete still has weird dreams on the night, but less. he thinks it's just fine, you know, he gets over it better now, and he doesn't feel sick anymore either, okay? So the day for him's going okay again, you know. His relationship with his little brother is still, you know, crap. You know, after what happened at the location with Foxy, you know, they're still not getting along. But yeah, the day's going better compared to yesterday. And it gets bad again, okay? So thinking obliviously, everything's fine now, you know, just weird coincidences. Walking home, he goes past a building site, okay? And he goes under some scaffolding, you know, the scaffolding path, and everything's fine, you know? He was very paranoid now. He overthought everything, like, oh, I've got to look around and be careful, you know? Some weird things have happened to me. You know, keep an eye out. What's going on? I'm under a scaffolding building. Everything's fine. Nothing wrong here? I'm okay. As soon as he walks out the scaffolding tunnel, a buzzsaw blade comes flying at him and scrapes his arm open. You can't make this up, guys. I'm not kidding. A saw blade flings at him and scrapes his arm. It's only a cut. 'Tis but a scratch. It doesn't cut his arm off, but yeah, a big wound, like, you know, just like a little, like a wound. And yeah, it's so weird. And that's when I was like, I've even here, guys, Final Destination, because that's what it reminded me of. And yeah, it's so weird. Feel really bad for Pete now. You know, like I said, this is weird, right? You know, it's not very FNAF-y, is it? Really? We haven't had much FNAF. They go to a location, Foxy's there, puts a curse on Pete, and you know he's got a chance of losing his eye and losing his arm. It's not the animatronic chasing Pete, is it? It's like very paranormal curse, you know. It's really strange. I like the change though, you know, it's different and I like it. So yeah, when Pete's at home, the mom's worried now. The mom's like, oh my God, what's happened to you? You know, you almost got killed by a buzzsaw. And the dad, who left them, comes to check up on him, asks how he is. You know, he's worried as well. So yeah, the dad comes to the house and checks up on Pete, and they go fishing. So they decide to go fishing, and on the lake, and you know they have a conversation about what's been going on, and the dad thinks that you know he's done it to himself, because the dad's worried about what's going on with Pete and his life. And yeah, while they're having this conversation, guys, and again, you can't make this up. While they're having the conversation, there's a hidden detail what people might have missed, is that the wind is very bad at this point, and they're on a fishing lake, okay, and there's other fishermen around, or women, and somebody's fishing line goes over Pete while they're having this conversation because of the wind, okay? And what do you think's gonna happen? Yep, the fishing hook rips open Pete's face. It almost misses his eye, but the fishing hook scrapes all of his cheek. It gets hooked onto him and almost gets pulled into the lake. Again, it's so crazy, isn't it? And the dad sees this happen now. The dad sees what's going on, like, oh my God. Obviously he doesn't think it's a curse or anything, just bad luck, how a fishing hook's got attached to Pete, you know, which rarely happens in real life, you know, attached to his cheek. He manages to get it off, but yeah, he's got a big gaping cut now from the hook. So Pete is, you know, you got to feel sorry for Pete at this point, guys, you know. So many things are happening. It's happening to him all at once. It's not just a one-off thing, you know. He's got hacked by a buzzsaw and then hooked by a fishing line, and had his cheek ripped open. This is where Chuck the younger brother starts to think, yeah, this is weird. This is really weird now. You know, one coincidence is bad enough, but all the time happening to my older brother. You know, it all started when you took me to go and see Foxy. It's all started since we went to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, Pete. And Pete explains to Chuck what's been going on. And they call a truce. So Pete thinks he's just unlucky because of karma. You know, he's scared Chuck. You know, just bad luck, karma. You know, I bullied my younger brother. You know, bad things are happening to me. Let's call a truce. I'm sorry that I scared you. Let's call a truce, younger brother. And, you know, hopefully things go okay again. And this is where they start to get along with each other. You know, they call a truce and they get along with each other. They play games with each other. They're being friendly with each other. And things are looking up again. Okay? Pete's wounds are starting to heal on his face and arm. Things are looking good. Okay? Chuck still thinks, though, that something bad is happening. Okay? And now, this is where I want to talk about something about the curse. If you didn't know by now, Pete is cursed, okay? But there's a story, little plot line in the story that makes you think, okay, you know, this is a big hint to show that Pete is cursed. So, it's pretty simple, guys. Chucky's playing a game about a wizard putting a curse on the village. And you have to go and break the curse to beat the game. Okay? It's about a curse. You know, something so small, but then when you read it, you're like, oh, yeah, clearly. The author has put this in to show that Pete is cursed. Foxy has cursed Pete. Although things are looking better for Pete, he still has this deep feeling inside of him, and he knows that it's not over. He's got this anxious feeling inside of him, knowing that something bad is still there within him. And Chuck, the younger brother, confronts Pete about this and says to Pete, look, I really do think Foxy is behind all this. Foxy has caused this to happen to you. You need to go to Foxy. We need to go back to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and fight Foxy to break the curse. It has to happen. You're going to keep going through this if you don't break the curse. And irritatingly, Pete shrugs it off and he's like, Chuck, this is stupid. Get out of my room. You know, this is ridiculous. And they have a big argument and the truce is over now. So they both fall out with each other. Remember that scene at the start with Foxy being in the bedroom? This is what happens, okay? So on the night, Pete can't sleep. Okay, he can't sleep. And he's fixated on his window. And he looks out the window and he thinks that he hears rustling coming from the bushes. And he looks again, goes back to bed, still fixated on what's going on, and he can hear sounds. He hears his garden gate open. He hears the house door open. He hears stomping around the house. And then he hears something at his bedroom door. Got FNAF 4 vibes from this. Foxy was in his bedroom now, okay? And that scene at the start where Foxy attacked Pete, that's this part, okay? So Foxy leaps over Pete, tries to kill him, you know, says to be a pirate, you gotta get the eye and lose an arm, and attacks Pete and pops his eyeball. It was a dream, okay? Sorry for the suspense. It was a dream. Very bad dream. The worst dream he's ever had, okay? Where it seemed so real. It seemed so real to Pete. Foxy came to his house and almost attacked him. It was a dream. So, yeah, Foxy coming into the house and attacking him. Where have we heard that before? FNAF 4? I still think FNAF 4 was real, guys. I don't think it was a dream. That's for another theory. Okay, guys, we're coming up to the end of the story. Almost there. So, as you can clearly see, it's not over. He had a bad dream with Foxy. The curse is not over yet, okay? And how ironic is this, guys? When he goes to school, there's a homecoming carnival. You know, there's a carnival at the school, and it has a theme. What do you think the theme of the carnival is? Guess right now. Pirate themed. How ironic, right? Yeah, so the carnival is pirate themed at school. Amazing. How ironic. What a coincidence. Pete right now is feeling better, okay? Nothing bad's happening right now. Obviously, you know, something bad's going to happen. And he just wanted to start fresh. He didn't want to face Foxy. He was too scared to go and confront Foxy. And he just wanted to try and, you know, erase it from his brain. And just forget about it. He looks around at the carnival at lunch. There's a big open area at the school. And there's a big carnival going on. You know, prize games and, you know, carnival games, stuff like that. A really nice atmosphere. And he meets Maria at lunch. And Maria is at a stall. And there's this box. And you put your hand in to get a prize. I've done an awful diagram here, guys. It's terrible. But, you know, a box where you put your hand in. And there's like a cover over it so you can't see what's in the box. And you have to fish out a prize to win. And he puts his hand in. And his hand gets stuck inside the box. And he starts to panic, like, I can't get my hand out, help me, what's going on? It was a prank. That was all a prank for anybody, not just Pete. If you put your hand in, your hand's deliberately supposed to get stuck because there's like a material that goes around your arm and grasps it. You know those finger traps where you get your fingers stuck? Those, I think that like those Chinese finger traps, that material, so you put your fingers in and you can't get it back out. That's what it was for his hand and arm. Obviously, what's happened with Pete in the past, he panics about it. But there's a reason why he's panicking. Although it was a prank, he gets his hand out and he's got the, you know, the arm trap around him. The trap is getting tighter and tighter around his arm. And that's not what's supposed to happen, okay? The prank was just to get his hand trapped. Okay, we'll take it off, you know, April Fools or whatever. No, the material, the rubber, is getting tighter and tighter around his arm. And he starts to panic. And Maria panics as well. You know, it keeps getting tighter and tighter. And Maria has to get it off, you know. She cuts it off. And Pete's arm is literally purple, bruised, because of how tight the rubber was going around his arm. It was literally like a dark purple. Poor Pete, man. So now Pete obviously is very angry at Maria. Like, what the heck was that for? You know, that wasn't funny. So he goes off in an upset state. He ends up in a mirror maze. Okay, that's very tongue twistery for me. Mirror maze, mirror maze, mirror maze, mirror maze. He gets knocked into a mirror maze. I'm just going to say maze now. By a bunch of kids. He's walking past a bunch of kids and he gets knocked into a maze. And it reminded me of It Chapter 2, if any of you guys have watched It Chapter 2, when the kid's in the maze. He's walking around the mirror maze and he's lost. He can't get out now. He's got knocked in and his brain's going all crazy and he's panicking. He's going around the maze and he can't see where he's going and he's panicking. And at the end of the mirror maze, who do you think is there? Okay, and this scene is very iconic. I loved it, man. I really liked this part. So, in the maze, right, at the end of the maze, there's a pirate figure, and you can't see the face. It's like tilted down, and all you can see is the pirate hat covering the face, and the hook's up like that. in the darkness. Can you imagine seeing that? So it's like that, with the pirate hat on, looking down. And Pete goes closer and closer to this pirate figure. Lifts up the hat. Foxy. There's a chase scene in the mirror maze of Pete trying to run away from Foxy. Really, really cool. And Pete manages to get out of the mirror maze. But before that, Foxy leaps onto Pete again. And, you know, grabbing him and stuff. And luckily, Pete manages to escape. He punches Foxy in the face, I'm pretty sure. And, you know, Foxy stumbles back and Pete gets out. And the weird thing is, guys, when he gets out of the maze, he looks back at the mirror maze and everybody's looking at him laughing because he's like, what's so funny? I just got chased by Foxy the animatronic. What's so funny about that? And he turns around and looks back at the mirror maze and it wasn't Foxy. It was somebody dressed as a clown with a pirate hat on and a hook. So it wasn't Foxy. It was all in his head, imagining being chased by Foxy. And everybody's laughing at him because it's funny, you know, he's panicking and getting scared of a clown. And now this is where it's very Final Destination, very, you know, weird. So he runs away because he's embarrassed and he's scared. What the hell's going on? I just got chased by Foxy, but nobody else sees it. He starts running through some of the booths, the stalls. He runs past a balloon popping minigame where you throw darts at balloons. He gets hit by one in the face, almost in his eye, scratched on his eye, bleeding. He runs again. He runs past an exotic farm with birds and animals. And he's looking around, running away. And one of the parrots goes, "Squawk, lose an eye, lose an arm. Lose an eye, lose an arm." So, and he's like, what the heck? Why is the parrot saying that? Lose an eye, lose an arm? That's what Foxy said to me. And then he looks back and the parrot's just squawking. He's not saying it. It's all in his brain now. It's going crazy. He's panicking. He's running around. Chain of accidents now, going crazy. And then he realises, no, that's it. The curse is getting worse. I need to stop this from happening. I need to face the villain. I need to face the wizard and break the curse. I need to go and face Foxy. He had to get out and end this. So, at this point, guys, he's talking to a teacher and he's explaining what's going on. And the teacher thinks he's crazy, obviously, because he's gone crazy now, guys. Pete's gone crazy. You know, oh, I've got to go and end this. He's saying this to the teacher. Like, I keep losing an eye, losing an arm. I'm going, you know, what's going on? I need to go and face Foxy. It all happened there. And the teacher's like, what the heck's going on? Are you okay? This is the horrible part, guys. And I'm so sorry for Pete. I really am. This is sad. It's really sad. So Pete decides to go to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and he runs out the school, and he gives Chuck a voicemail because Chuck's not answering his phone. Chuck, you were right. It's been Foxy all along. I have to go back to face him. Freaky stuff is still happening, but no way is Foxy going to win, Chuck. No freaking way. I'm sorry I didn't believe you, little bro. Meet me there as soon as you can. We can finish this together. In a blind panic, Pete rushed off the sidewalk and into the street. He sensed something speeding towards him, and he turned. That's when a truck smashed him with extreme force. His body went flying, his limbs twisting, and one moment felt like forever. Then he crashed, his body slamming the hard ground. He felt a crack, then a shatter. The force scalded his skin against the road as he rolled and rolled, leaving a path of blood behind him. Pain was everywhere. Then everything went dark. So yeah, Pete gets run over by a truck. Oh no. Oh no. How dark is that? So the moment Pete decides to go and face Foxy, he gets run over by a truck. This curse, man, like, how horrible is this curse? Horrible, right? And then Chuck doesn't know what's happening. He listens to the voicemail and he's like, oh, finally, you know, we've got to end this. He ditches school and goes to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza on his own. And he doesn't know about Pete, guys, at this point. He doesn't know, okay? He goes to the maintenance room and it's still exactly the same. Pete wasn't there, obviously, and Pete wasn't answering his phone. And Chuck goes over to the Foxy stage, this one, about to press the start button, okay, and he doesn't. His dad rings, tells him, where is he? Something's happened. Obviously, Pete's died. And the dad picks Chuck up at the pizzeria, and so Chuck does not activate Foxy, okay? So I'm going to talk about that later on if I remember, hopefully I do. And yeah, Chuck gets taken to the school, barricades everywhere, flashing lights, ambulance, police sirens, and Pete dies. It's a very, very sad scene, guys. The mom's crying. The dad starts to cry. It's really sad. I feel like this is like the saddest, like in all of the stories I've read, I nearly got upset. I was obviously upset by it, but I nearly cried. It's very sad. You know, Pete does not deserve this. Nobody deserves that. Nobody. And, you know, the mom's upset and the dad starts to cry and says, he's gone, Pete. Pete's gone. Chuck, he's gone. It's over, he's gone. It's not over yet for Pete, though. It's not over yet. I'm so sorry, Pete. I know you're fictional, but I'm so sorry. So, if you remember the mom with the organ donation, Pete's died, he's young, his organs will be used. They're signed up for an organ donation. So yeah, Pete is dead, but Pete is still alive in spirit, okay? And this is where it's really horrible, guys, really, really horrible. And again, the curse is not over. So Pete is awake. He's conscious. His body's dead, but his spirit is conscious. So I hope you guys can imagine being in a dead body, but seeing everything around you. It's very, very deep and very paranormal. But Pete can see what's going on. And Pete is on an operation table. And Pete knows that he's got run over by a truck. Because he remembers, and he's like, he thinks he's alive. It's so upsetting because Pete's like, oh my god, I'm still alive. I don't think I'm conscious, but I'm still here. Oh, I can see surgeons. They must be like fixing me up after the accident. Okay, I'm gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay. I'm alive. I'm conscious. I can see everything around me. And unfortunately, he is dead, and it's not an operation for that reason. It's to get his organs. And because of what Pete's had in the past with his bad dreams with Foxy, he starts to think it's a dream. The surgeons cannot hear him. The body is grey and white, and apparently Pete's eyes are wide open and they can't close them. And this is what happens, guys. I'll read it to you because it's wild. It's wild. The surgeons start to talk about like, oh, poor kid. You know, poor kid. He was so young. He was only 16. Good job he's donating his organs. Someone's gonna really benefit from that. And Pete can hear all of this, and he goes, Stop, I'm alive! You can't take my organs before I'm dead! Someone help me, please! The first man grabbed a scalpel and placed it onto Pete's chest. Oh, hold up a minute, the other man said, reading again from the screen. What's up? Oh, thank goodness. Tell him this is all a mistake. Tell him I'm still alive. Tell him not to cut me open. We have an urgent case in need of the eyes and one hand. Says here, the kid is an exact match. The hand doesn't have much damage. It'll work, but we got to put everything on ice quickly. The transport will be here before we know it. Let's do that first. No! The man with the scalpel looked down at Pete. Good job, kid. You're going to help a lot of people. He retrieved small forceps with his other hand. The second man turned on a small buzzsaw, the blade spinning in a circular blur. Let's get to work. Pete began to hear Foxy's music play in his head. You can be a pirate, but first you'll have to lose an eye and an arm. Yarg. Pete watched in helpless horror as the first man leaned down to take his eyes. Damn. Really dark, right? Not only Pete died, got run over by a truck, he's still conscious, watching two surgeons take out his eyes and his organs, and the curse is still there. An urgent case of a kid needing an eye and an arm, an exact match. It's crazy, right? How that's happened to Pete. Such a bad curse, man. The fact that the curse can get an urgent case of taking his eye and arm out still. Horrible. Horrible, horrible. I feel like this is one of the worst cases of a kid in all of the stories. I feel like Pete has got one of the worst things that's ever happened. Really, really dark. 4 weeks later, everybody's still sad, obviously, and Chuck is really sad, you know. Chuck is really upset. And Chuck still thinks Pete's alive. He goes around the house calling for Pete, thinking that Pete's still with him. And Chuck decides to go and see Foxy. 4 weeks later, he listens back to the voicemail. It's still on his phone. Chuck, you were right all along. We've got to go back and see Foxy. We've got to end this. Can I just say, nothing bad happens after this point. Okay? So, the curse was only on Pete because he pressed the start button. Okay? And Foxy sang the song to Pete. So, nothing bad happens to Chuck. Nothing bad happens to anybody else. Chuck decides to go and see Foxy. And goes to the maintenance room again. Chuck goes to the machine next to Pirate's Cove and presses the start button. What do you guys think happens? Nothing. Surprisingly, nothing happens. I'm guessing you would have expected Foxy to come out again and sing the song and put a curse on Chuck. No. Complete silence. No activation of Foxy. No gears rolling. No curtains opening. No Foxy music. Nothing happens. And that's the end. It ends like that. So, yeah. What do you guys think about that, man? Very, very deep. Not a lot of lore, though. I can't really think of any lore to do with this to fit in with the games, really. This is very, very paranormal. Very wacky. Okay? This isn't like Foxy chasing Pete everywhere and stalking him. This is a curse. This is like a movie, you know, those curse movies where a fortune teller puts a curse on somebody and like the devil comes after them, you know. This is very, very, very wacky. That Pete gets a curse on him from Foxy. The song, you lose an eye and lose an arm if you want to become a pirate. And Pete gets haunted by this curse, and, you know, real life things happen. Where a meat cleaver nearly chops his arm off. This is paranormal stuff, guys. This isn't one of William Afton's animatronics being an experiment and doing wacky things. This is a real curse. Like, people see it happen to Pete. His dad witnessed the fishhook go across his cheek. You know, this isn't some kind of technology. This is a real curse in the universe. This is a real curse. And my explanation to the story, guys, is the hidden detail I said at the start of the summary. The candles and the black markings in the maintenance room. Like, I do not think Foxy caused this, guys, on his own. I really don't. I really don't think a kid's spirit cursed Pete. You know, a dead kid inside Foxy. I really don't think that's a kid's spirit inside Foxy would do something like that. How the heck does a kid's spirit manage to do a curse on somebody? I really, I'm 99% certain it's to do with that tiny detail that's never mentioned again. They go into the maintenance room, and inside the maintenance room is candles on the floor with strange black markings, symbols. That's the curse. Somebody has gone inside that maintenance room and placed a curse on Foxy. And then the curse is on Foxy. Foxy then puts the curse on somebody. And unfortunately, that was Pete. Pete dies. And, you know, the curse happens to Pete. And then Foxy doesn't activate afterwards. The curse has happened. And the curse has killed somebody. And the curse only happens once by the looks of things. It's not a repetitive curse where, you know, a kid's going to walk in, activate it, and Foxy's going to place a curse on anybody who comes in and activates his start button. So yeah, it's a weird one, guys. I know it's weird. This one's probably the wackiest story. The more you delve into it, you know, when you hear and listen to the hidden details in this story with the candles and the black markings, that's when you think, like, damn, this isn't like somebody going into Funtime Freddy's chest cavity and getting killed. This isn't like a ball pit. Well, to be fair, that one was wacky, but yeah, this one, it had a meaning behind the ball pit with the agony. You know, the ball pit was haunted, and that's how it all happened. I know it's wacky, but there's a being there. There's a spring Bonnie there, powered by agony. This one, Foxy doesn't do anything. All Foxy does is place the curse onto Pete. He doesn't go around and leave Pirates Cove and start stalking Pete. It's just a curse. Onwards from that. Foxy never leaves Pirates Cove. Ever. It's just all this, it's just the curse that lingers. And it's, even when Pete dies, the curse is still there, man. Of Pete becoming a pirate and losing his eye and his arm. Yeah, it's very sad and very wacky, but I did enjoy it. You know, it's different, and I really can't think of any lore, guys. I mean, it just goes to show that in the FNAF book universe, the Fazbear Frights universe, damn, curses are real, paranormal activities real, agony, cursed objects are all real in this story. I don't know about the video game lore though. I don't know. And who put the candles and the black markings in there in the first place? That will all be explained soon, I'm pretty sure. And that's all I've got to say, guys. There's not much lore to talk about. The only thing you can really theorise about is the curse. Who placed the curse on Foxy? Has Foxy always been cursed? Can Foxy do that with everybody? Or was it just Pete with the candles and the black markings? I do think it was just Pete. I don't think Foxy curses everybody he meets. I think the curse only worked once, and that was on Pete. And he went through some horrible stuff. Feel so bad for him. And kind of like the dreams of Foxy and stuff, like the animatronics going into his house. You can kind of like maybe fit it in with FNAF 4 if FNAF 4 was a dream. Again, though, I really don't think FNAF 4 was a dream. It could be. But with sister location showing that the house is real and stuff, it's a confusing one. And also you can kind of fit it in with a bully, the older brother being a bully and bullying his younger brother. Kind of fit that in with Michael Afton and the crying child, I guess. But there's not really much of a connection in my opinion, to be honest, because, you know, Chuck doesn't get killed by Foxy or anything. But yeah, there's some similarity, but not a lot. That's all I've got to say, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. The next story is Dance With Me. And Dance With Me is about Ballora and the sister location. I've heard that Dance With Me is pretty boring, but obviously I'll read it anyway and give my opinion on it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Take care. That was my summary of Step Closer. Very wacky, but I enjoyed it. And oh my dear Lord, I feel very, very sorry for Pete. So yeah, pay your respects to Pete, guys, because he did not deserve what happened to him. That was dark. Whoever put that curse on Foxy is a bad, bad person. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Take care. Lots of love. And I'll see you all next time.